The New York Yankees have reached the ALCS for the third time in 6 years, and this year they're not playing the Houston Astros. Astros got knocked out a while ago. It's Yankees versus Guardians in the ALCS. What's up, everyone? Lou Orlando, Will Tallant, Nick Palmer, your three FUV New York Yankees beat reporters, all set to break down. I think this is going to be a pretty exciting ALCS matchup, man. I want to just check on first. I want to check on how you are. I want to check on your vibes. Game one's tonight at the stadium, 7:38. Boys, how we feeling?
Feeling great. Can't complain. I have won one series under the belt. Didn't want to get too excited. I watched that fourth game on my rooftop in my apartment and it was cold. I clapped and then I went to bed
Nice.
because there's still a lot of work to be done for the Yankees, especially if you're Aaron Boone. Want to be excited that you did win a series, should definitely celebrate, but you do know that there's more work to be done, at least just getting to the World Series. And they match up pretty well against Cleveland. They played against Cleveland pretty well this season. So Alex Cobb game one, Tanner Bibby game two. Yankees have a shot here, boys. They have a shot.
And also, if you're Aaron Boone, I think, like, honestly, we don't praise Aaron Boone a lot as Yankees fans. Managed a great series.
Oh,
Guy
He
managed
absolutely.
an
did.
excellent series. Bullpen usage was off the charts, and also the decisions on the roster ended up being like, I know we raised some eyebrows when we were like, hey, why isn't Stroman on the roster? But I thought all of the decisions, especially defensively at first base, when I saw John Birdie there playing first base for the first time in his career, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous. And I think a lot of Yankees fans were like, huh, this is it's an interesting time to be doing this, but paid dividends. He played a great first base. Yankees maybe didn't get the bats going in the way that they wanted it to, and certainly didn't get one bat going that they really need to get going. But Giancarlo Stanton's here, man. Playoff Stanton's here. How about the second highest rate of home runs in the postseason behind Babe
Got
Ruth?
one, yep, just shy of Babe Ruth.
Yeah, that's all right, I
Good
guess. How are you
stuff.
doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm glad that we got here because the conversations we'd be having if the Yankees didn't get here would be very dark and gloomy, especially in a postseason where the Orioles and the Astros get knocked out right away, and the narrative is this is the path, this is the year, and the Yankees needed to get to the ALCS. They needed to beat the Kansas City Royals, and they did not do it. I think in a pretty manner, a manner that instills confidence. Maybe not even in an exciting manner. Like when you put these Yankee games up against Mets, all of the Mets Phillies games, the Dodgers Padres games, it's like it's a completely different sport almost. And when you talk about like energy and excitement and moments. But the Yankees got there and that's all that matters. Take down the Royals in four, which I forget if you guys did predictions last time or not, but I think I had, Yankees in four in my head, and I know Will, you had that as well. So the Yankees took care of business the way they needed to.
Yeah, I
I have a
have the
question
Yankees
though.
in
I have a
four.
question. I have a question. Um, if the Yankees lose that series to the Royals, boys, does
Hmm.
Aaron Boone have a job next year?
It's a tough question.
I don't know.
That's a tough question
Luckily, we don't
because
we don't have to don't have to
Right, this
answer
is
that.
purely in
But
the land of hypotheticals, but it's so interesting. Do you think he would have a job next year if the Yankees lost that series?
it's tough. The team, no matter what happens this year, is going to look a lot different than it does right now. They are. Whether they bring Juan Soto back or not, they're still going to look a lot different than they are right now. Um, does that mean Aaron Boone is gone with the changes? I don't know. They were the best team in the American League. I thought, he did a great job all season long, despite that run in June and July, which you can't really fault him at all there. He's not playing the games. There's only so much he could do. So I don't know. I think with them winning the series and being the number one team in the American League, I think that gives him at least a 2-year extension
if they
at,
So,
at
lost against
most.
KC, I think Cal would at least have to have conversation. Cal and Cashman at least have to have conversations about it because that'd be another
Definitely.
year where you're awesome in the regular season and you didn't get there. But
because
they got there.
Will, a lot of the time when managers get fired, it's not because they did a poor job managing. It's because a head needs to roll and someone
Yeah.
needs to be held accountable. And Aaron Boone has been the manager of the Yankees getting to the ALCS and losing all the time for what seems like almost every year. So
Well,
anyway,
I think Will's right in the sense like his job for next year. probably next 2 years, I think is secured because he got them to the ALCS for again. It's the third time in 6 years.
Now,
That's all under
yeah.
Boone. The sixth time in 14 years. Some of that's Girardi as well, but Boone has had a lot of success in the regular season and the early stages of the postseason. And now this is his first chance to get to a World Series managing this team. And as we record, I think the postseason roster was dropped just a little bit ago. So I think
Mhm.
what better way to open the ALCS preview than by talking about who's going to be playing in the games? Not a ton of changes across the board to the postseason roster, but there are two very notable ones. They add Marcus Stroman to their pitching. So they add an extra pitcher. They went with, I think they went with 11 against the Royals, only 11 pitchers. Um, so now they add an extra one in Marcus Stroman that gets the staff to 12. And Anthony Rizzo's back. So Duke Ellis gone. He's off the roster. Ben Rice off the playoff roster as well. But you get two pretty big additions in. I think we have to start with Anthony Rizzo. That's the big one. There is almost no talk, no dialogue about his progression, his health. Obviously, he fractured his hand in the second to last game of the season. Evidently, they think that he's healthy enough to make an impact in some way in the ALCS. I think my question to you guys is, what does that look like?
Don't disrespect Duke Ellis like that. Don't give
No,
him his.
we
I'm
can
just
talk
kidding.
about it. I think
I'm just
there's
kidding.
no,
I'm
I
just
think
kidding.
there's a conversation to be had.
Um, it's great. It's great. I am so happy to see Anthony Rizzo. It would feel like, let's be real, he's not going to be a Yankee next year. I would feel sad if Anthony Rizzo didn't get a crack at playoff baseball. He deserves it. He's proved himself to be a good enough player and an asset when he needs to be that I think he should be starting no matter how he's hitting. I think he should be starting if he's healthy almost every game at first base just because of I think the mental impact he has on the other guys when he's in the lineup is big. I think the fact that he brings a power lefty threat to the middle of the lineup where or not even the middle you can bat him seventh and I think that would suit him perfectly. So, um yeah, man, Anthony Rizzo, I'm juiced about it. I don't know if he's going to be playing tonight. This was something we were talking about earlier. He might be like, hey, he's healthy enough to maybe play game 3 or game 4 and we just want to have him there on the roster. I'd also be fine with that. How about it, Anthony Rizzo?
I'm honestly surprised to hear that take from you, considering like the show a couple of weeks ago. Will was the big proponent of like postseason experience. Having a guy like that
Yeah.
matters, and you kind of push back on that. Where I think, listen, it's not for nothing. Oswaldo Cabrera and John Birdie did a pretty good job at first base. Now I'm with you. I think if Rizzo is healthy enough to play, that he gets the first crack at first base. But I don't know that I'm necessarily locked into no matter what happens, Rizzo starts every game because I think if it's let's go the Matt Carpenter route 2 years ago when Carpenter came back and they added him to the roster and they would try to pinch hit him, they'd try and play him and he just looked off. He didn't look like a guy that hit a home run like every five at bats in the regular season. But I would be willing to move off of it and go pivot to either Birdie or Oswaldo if we get to like game five, six, seven, and Rizzo just looks lost. But hopefully we don't get there.
I don't
The
think you
splits matter.
start Rizzo. I don't think you start Rizzo game one. The most they've heard about, or the most we've heard about Rizzo is that Boone said on, I believe it was a couple days ago, that they're seeing progress in the two fractured fingers. He's clearly okay enough to play at some capacity. That's why he's on the roster. If he was okay last week, he would have been on the roster again.
He
I
said
think
it
you're starting
himself.
as Waldo Cabrera. What's up?
He said it himself. Remember, like they asked him like how are you doing, Riz, and he was like I'm ready to go now.
Hmm.
He said it wasn't up to me. So I agree we probably won't see him game 1, but it wouldn't shock me, to my core if we did.
I mean, it's definitely right. You talk about postseason baseball, and there's such an emphasis on playing sound defense. And again, I thought Oswaldo and John Birdie did a really good job in the ALDS. Birdie has that great diving play that he turns into a double play. There was a moment in game one, I think a very underrated part of the Soto outfield assist early in that game to nail Perez at the plate is Oswaldo Cabrera on the relay with a great throw from first base. And That's a guy that has a middle infielder arm. Uh, not really what Anthony Rizzo has. Like Oswaldo's arm played on that relay, and I mean that's a small moment, but like I think they did a serviceable job there defensively. Where I would say the Rizzo's by far their best defensive first baseman and gives you the most confidence at that position from a defensive standpoint. I think the bat's going to be a big question because if Anthony Rizzo is any modicum of Anthony Rizzo, you trust the back of his baseball card and what he's done in the pros for 10 plus years over even a youngster like Oswaldo or John Birdie's a veteran but does not have the same cachet as Rizzo.
Do you have any idea just how happy it would make me to see Rizzo just hit like a couple really clutch home runs? Like how like he is he's looked at this team as like a leader and kind of like a father figure to a lot of these younger players who are learning from him. Like for example, um John Birdie and Oswaldo Cabrera. He's like teaching them how to play first base, and they call him Sensei. I'm not even kidding. They call him Sensei Rizzo. So it goes to show that like the way that he plays the game, there is something that other people try to emulate, and I think that there is no better place to put that on
I
display
don't
than
think the matchup works tonight for Rizzo,
why
personally.
Rizzo's splits favor righties.
It doesn't matter to me. I think that with Alex Cobb pitching, I know he hasn't really pitched all season long. He pitched in the division series. Rizzo's coming off of an injury where I mean, he fractured both of his fingers, two fingers. He's coming off of a fractured arm, which he's healthy now, but Alex Cobb is a ground ball pitcher. He's been a ground ball pitcher his entire career. I don't want Anthony Rizzo there. I don't want him there. If a ground ball, if it comes to this, if they need to put a ball in play, I want Oswaldo Cabrera hitting that ground ball, or I want John Birdie hitting that ground ball to give the Yankees a chance in any situation possible. Game one, pivotal step. You need to take game one, especially if it's at home. I don't think running to Rizzo right away, especially with the season that he's had, is the way to go. Now, that's not to take down what I was saying about postseason experience. This is a totally different thing because Rizzo has been battered all year long. Postseason experience or not, he has not been healthy this year. And when he has been healthy, he hasn't been super great. So you're taking the sample size from this year plus the way that his body has been this year. I think you need to put Birdie or Cabrera, preferably Cabrera there, and then go from there and see what you have when you face Tanner Bibby. But
Yeah.
right now, Rizzo, I don't think you see him. I don't think you should see him in this lineup to start game one.
Lou, I would like you to be the tiebreaker here because I want to make the case for why he's a good matchup against Cobb. Because the righty lefty splits for Rizzo favor him whatever 60, 70 points in OPS, which isn't nothing. And fine, if you don't want to go off of that, Bill, that's fine. But Alex Cobb is 37. He does not throw gas. And my one gripe with Rizzo, especially after the concussion, was that he couldn't catch up to high velo. He was behind every single fastball, and even once he was cleared from concussion, he was still behind fastballs. It looks like just he couldn't catch up to it anymore. Some of that might be a function of age, some of that might be lingering injury, but he's Alex Cobb is down there in the lower echelons of velocity. And I think that, if the splits favor him, if the fact that Rizzo doesn't have to worry about 100-mile-an-hour up in the zone fastball to catch up to, which whenever Rizzo strikes out, it seems like that's always the case. You don't really see him fishing a lot. It's that he's not catching up to the fastball. So I honestly I think that there's no better matchup for Rizzo in this
You
Guardians.
get to that bullpen, and Rizzo is caked.
You
You
can
get to the
totally sub him
Guardians
out then.
bullpen, it's over. He's two at bats, and it's 100 all day long
I
before
agree.
you even get to Class A.
Right. So that's why I like him against Cobb if you're going to play him.
Here's here's why I'm torn, and I think ultimately I fall with Nick, but I'm not crazy about it. And it's how the Yankees want to use Anthony Rizzo this postseason. If you envision him as someone that you want in the starting lineup, I think you have to get him in there game one because we've seen this story with Giancarlo Stanton and a numerous amount of guys that come back from injury and just being away from seeing major league pitching in a real game setting for even just 3 weeks can really affect someone and takes them a little bit to get back into a groove. I'd say the same thing with Matt Carpenter. I think he was still hurt, but I also think he was hurt by the fact that he hadn't faced major league pitching in a while. And those velo machines, they're awesome. They can replicate anything. Every MLB player will tell you it's just not the same. It's not the same as being in a real live MLB game, especially not a postseason game. Here's why I'm torn. Will's right. You really need to win game one. Even in a 7 game series, you need to win game one. That is a massive swing game that gives you a big leg up the rest of the way on how you're able to navigate the series. You never have to play from behind. But if you want Rizzo to be an impact guy and you push it back to game two, well, that's now Rizzo's going to be a little off in game two, and you don't expect him to come out and be super sharp down the stretch. So if you are anticipating a long series and you want to start Rizzo game five, six, seven, and hope that he can be an impact guy, then you need to play him from the jump so that he can get those reps. And where I get torn on this is maybe you're sacrificing game one, or you're at least sacrificing a hole in the lineup game one, because I completely agree, especially with the bullpen. I think maybe Rizzo can get to Cobb, but as soon as that bullpen comes in, I think he's going to be overmatched. And so it's a tough conversation. Like if Rizzo's just on this roster to be a defensive sub, have that experience on the bench, maybe a once in a while pinch hitter, then I don't even think we need to have this conversation. But if he's supposed to be a starter, I mean, that's where it's tough because I agree. I think he's going to struggle early, probably the first two, maybe even 3 games. But if you want him to be an impact guy at all, you need to get those struggles out of the way.
This is also why I don't want Rizzo there right now either, because the postseason, they already won a series without him. Postseason is not a time to experiment. We're not going to see if Anthony Rizzo is going to do this or that. John Birdie did this. Oswaldo Cabrera did this. That's what they got to roll with.
I,
I hear like the with Alex Cobb not having what he used to have, and he's never really been a velo guy at all throughout his career. But there's just no room to experiment if you're Aaron Boone. You have to go with what already worked. Anthony Rizzo's back, great option to have. Put him on the roster if he's healthy enough to play. Perfect. That's a great option to have. You can't tinker with this lineup though. I know they didn't hit. They hit enough to beat the Royals. I know they're playing a different team in the Guardians now, but once this is my last point with the Yankees, and this will be more of like an overarching point. The Yankees to win this series, they need to score 3, 4, 5 runs in the first 3 to 4 innings before they get to the Guardians bullpen. Guardians starting pitching, not that great. Tanner Bibby, good. Not like over the top amazing though. He was great in that division series. He was probably their best pitcher this year. The Yankees need to score 3 to 5 runs in the first 4 innings, get to that bullpen, have a cushion, and run with it that way. The Guardians bullpen is fantastic. The Yankees need to score early and often, and in order for them to get that, they got to go with what's hot right now. You can't wait for Rizzo to get going. There's no time to wait. There's no time to experiment in the postseason. You have to go with what works. What worked against the Royals, go out in game one, see what happens, and then you adjust. But your last sample size was a series that you just won. See if that works again.
See, but they did try new things. And John Birdie never played first base before this series. And
I know, but
like
it worked.
Aaron Boone, right? That's what I'm saying though. So the postseason is maybe a time to try things.
Well,
For
they were
example,
forced to.
Kodai
If
Senga for
Rizzo's
the Mets.
healthy, he plays.
Kodai Senga for the Mets. They tossed him out there in a postseason game when he didn't even have a full game coming back from an arm injury. Like, and he pitched a great first game. Didn't pitch great last night,
yeah,
but
that's a tough one too.
he pitched a great first game. So I think while you're right, on paper you shouldn't be trying new things in the playoffs. Sometimes circumstances force you to, and and sometimes I think that this circumstance could totally be that, hey, we got Anthony Rizzo. He won the World Series, dude. Let's get him on the field.
I
Let's
I
have him make
will
it.
I'll leave you with this and on the Rizzo front and his overall postseason stats for his career
Mm.
are not like they don't jump off the page. With Chicago, he never really hit a ton outside of the 2016 World Series run. He was pretty good the year they won the World Series. As a Yankee, 2021, 2022, 33 at bats, 273 batting average, 415 OBS, 1.21 OPS.
Feed it
Sorry,
to
I think
me.
I messed up the
Feed it
OBP. It
to
was
me.
a 415 OBP and the 1. OPS. 3 homers, 9 RBIs, got on base a ton. I think that's the one thing, even if the bat's not there, you look at what he's done in the postseason as a Yankee, and even this year when the bat hasn't been there, he gets hit by pitches and he walks. And in his Yankee postseason career, we're looking at 5 walks, 3 hit by pitches in a not crazy big sample size, but 33 at bats plus some plate appearances as well. Like that is a professional at bat that you can throw into the lineup. So I think it's interesting either way you go. The Stroman front, I think we talked about it a little bit. I was a proponent of putting him on the postseason roster in the ALDS. I know he didn't pitch great down the stretch. I just think having that length, and that's the Yankees' big advantage is that they have five, even with Nestor hurt, they have 5 legitimate starters that you can roll out there. 4 are going to start games, and we'll talk about that a little bit later at the end of the show. But you have already 4 locked into your ALCS rotation. Having Stroman in the mix gives you length in case a game gets away from you. If you get blown out or you're blowing out someone, that gives you a chance to eat innings with a guy that, again, this is a professional pitcher that's been an all-star. He was an all-star last year. So I like having Stroman on this roster.
Yeah, I would have had him on the
Yeah,
DS roster as well. No Mark Leiter Jr. again, but
I'm fine with that.
I am too. Yeah, Stroman once again. It's the same reason I'm on him on the division roster. It provides length for that starting pitching if they need it. If Luis Gil's walking guys left and right, if Carlos Rodon doesn't get out of the fourth inning today, then you have Stroman. You have someone that can give you length. Aaron Boone did a great job of managing the bullpen in the division series. The Royals didn't hit a ton outside
Mhm.
of that first game. So he didn't really, there wasn't really a sweat. That was because the bullpen was really solid. Now you face a little bit more of a complete lineup in the Guardians who are going to muster together hits that the Royals are just simply not going to do. So you need someone who's going to give you a little bit of length. You also have 2 more games in this series potentially. You need to win one more game than you did in that last series. I think Stroman, I'm not saying he should go out right away, but if they need length, if Clark Schmidt, Carlos Rodon are 3 2/3, 4 innings, you should think about putting Stroman in for 2 at the very least, saving those high leverage guys that were really solid for you. They did a good job of saving some guys. Like Tim Hill didn't really pitch a ton in this last series.
Mhm.
Clay Holmes, he was really good. I think it, and we'll talk about Clay Holmes a little bit more, but you obviously want to give him the ball with how good that he's been in these certain roles. Same with Canely, same with Weaver. You want to get to these guys. You don't want to get to them too early. The Guardians will work this bullpen. They will work this bullpen. So if you can save innings by using Stroman, I think you have to go with Stroman if one of your starters cannot get out of a non-decision kind of start.
Yeah. I see Stroman, honestly, I trust him probably the least out of the three of you guys. I see him purely as a cleanup role. I don't want him pitching in a game where the Yankees are winning by less than 3 runs. Um, the ability for him to let a ground ball through the hole and then just give up a home run is absurd. The amount of times that I've seen it. Um, and I don't trust him to get it done, especially coming out of the bullpen, dude. Like
Right.
this is where I would have loved for Nestor to be healthy
Yes.
because I would take Nestor in that situation a million days out of the week over
Sure.
Stroman.
Having Nestor, and that is one aspect of the playoff roster that we didn't really hit on yet, is Nestor not on the roster. And the initial reports were he would be out for the ALDS. There was a chance he could come back for the ALCS. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And flexor strains can really sideline you for a while. So that maybe is something that probably should have anticipated is, hey, Nestor might not be able to come back for this series. But yeah, not having Nestor hurts a lot. I think we can be in the same boat here, Nick. All three of us is that, yeah, especially early on in the series, like let's say Rodon and Cole. I mean, you really hope that they're able to go deep, but let's say one of them isn't able to, but it's still like a 1 run, 2 run game. I think you use up your bullpen there, right? So you go to all your top guys, but then that means maybe for game 3, some of those guys aren't available. By necessity, you might need Stroman in there, even if it's a close game, and you'd rather have someone that's built out like a starter as opposed to a Mark Leiter Jr. that I mean maybe I'm not I don't even know if you're more confident in Leiter Jr. than you are in Stroman, but I'm at right. That's toss up whatever. At least Stroman gives you the ability to have length if your bullpen gets shot at any point in the series. It's just
Well,
an
You
that's
also
important safety
don't
to
have
have.
that day off that they
right.
had between games one and
Mm.
two. That
Which
I that's like kind of like an outside hasn't really been talked about, but I think that's a really big thing. The Yankees used like seven pitchers in that first game. Then they had the day off and then they played again. It's back to back travel day off. Then you go to Cleveland. I think that definitely plays a little bit into it. So if Rodon is a little bit shaky tonight, which I'm not saying he's gonna be, but he was shaky against the Royals. He needs to compose himself, first of all. This is a little bit of a side tangent. He was getting really fired up, loved the energy, and then the Royals kind of punched him in the mouth a little bit. You just got to get through a certain number of innings and just keep going. It's okay to be fired up, but you got to win the game. If that happens again, you have someone who can give you length for sure, and they may need to deploy that. It's not like Cleveland is a super power hitting team as well. I know Lane Thomas had a great grand slam to send them to this series, and Jose Ramirez is obviously on a Hall of Fame track with a lot of pop. Could have had a 40-40 season this year, but you're looking at a team that puts the ball in play. Yankees defense has been solid. So I'm still there. Trust Stroman. He probably has the most experience outside of Cole and just in terms of being a horse, being a pitcher in big games for big teams. I'd give the ball to him. I'd give him the nod.
Will, do you know why that day off that they had in Kansas City is actually not even a little bit important, but super important? It's because they didn't have to announce that both Schmidt and Heel were both starting games, which
That's
meant
true.
that in their back pocket, because of the extra day off, if they were in a close like 1 run, 2 run game and Rodon totally just like fell off the face of the planet, they had Clark Schmidt there to go or Luis Heel there to go 4 solid innings. They don't have that luxury now. Both of them are
Right.
starting games, which means your only guy there for length is Marcus Stroman. So
Mhm.
it's a big that's a big hit that you got to think of.
All right, let's pivot and get to I would say the most highly anticipated segments. We got two for you. We got and credit to Nick Palmer for this first one. Came up with the name, and I think very true to a phrase he would say a lot. Who's your big guy? We'll get into that. We'll also do a little come on, man. It's my segment. But
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
let's start with the big guys. And so, gentlemen, I'll ask you, and I think only fair to start with Nick Palmer. Nick, who's your big guy for the ALCS?
There's no secret that Giancarlo Stanton was the big
He
guy
was a big guy.
in the Royals series. He was the biggest guy. Not just by stature, but by overall epicness as a postseason baseball player. That said, I said my big guy would be Carlos Rodon. He was not the big guy I was hoping to be. He looked like he was going to be the big guy. After those 2 innings where he was roaring on the mound, I was like, "Oh my God, I totally got it right. Rodon is the big guy, not the big guy."
Hmm.
Um, the big guy this series is Aaron Judge. It has to be Aaron Judge because if it's not and he goes silent for a second series in a row, I'm like, I still have the trust in him as the best hitter, one of the best hitters on the planet, that he can turn it on at any time. And that this whole narrative that he sucks in the postseason is just media garbage. And that he's just going through a slump and that postseason, not postseason, doesn't matter to Aaron Judge. I'm a firm believer in that because he has the skill set.
He would have been
If
a
he
great
doesn't,
he would have been a great come on, man. He would have made for a great come on, man.
no, but I'm saying that he's the big guy
He
because he's
needs to be.
crucial if the
He needs
Yankees
to
are going
be.
to win this. He
You
has to
are
be.
right. He needs to be.
He can a totally viable command man, and if you use him as your command man,
I won't. I won't.
fine.
I don't think that's allowed. I'm saying that right
You're
now.
right.
It's against the rules.
That's lazy. A judge command man is a little
Yeah.
lazy.
We make
Let's
them
do
up
it.
as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
All
what
right.
we do here.
Will.
Who's
Who's your big guy?
your big
My big guy. So I like the Baj take there. the big Aaron Judge take as the big guy. That's a good one. They really need him to get going. He's the difference between these 3-run ball games that they're having and making them 6-run ball games. Um, I'm gonna go a different route. Obviously, we're not gonna pick the same guys here, but someone, someone who I think could really, really change a course of a game for the Yankees and kind of maybe not think of him right away. Austin Wells.
That's what I
They
thought you
can
were gonna
get
say.
Wellsy. Yeah, if they can get a 4-hole Wellsy that we saw in August and a little bit in September. I know he had a little bit of a tough stretch down the end of September there, but if they can get something out of Austin Wells, who was, let's see, 2 for 16. He did have 2 RBIs, but he was 2 for 16 in that division series. There were some plays too that he could have come up with specifically in that fourth game.
Hmm.
It's the Royals that pop up that Salvi had. Was it in the seventh inning? Cole is still pitching. Play that's got to be made. Play that's got to be made. I know it was tough, but take the mask off, find the ball. He had room to catch it. I think if you can get something out of Austin Wells in that 4-hole, man, think about what that does for Giancarlo too. Because I don't think people were talking, and there's been a lot of discourse about, oh, Giancarlo's got to move up. No, 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 no. I think Giancarlo should stay right where he's at. Don't change it up. He's been great where he's at. Don't change it up unless Wells just absolutely does nothing. But I think Wells can do something here. I think you get a little bit of if you get a little bit of Wells, I think you get a little bit more of Giancarlo, and then down the line. If it's not Giancarlo doing all of the production here, I think Austin Wells has a really good shot to open it up and have a big series.
I'm not seeing Wells put together the at-bats that he was putting together in the first half of the year. Remember when he was working every single count, and even if he didn't walk or like get a hit, Booney was like, yeah, but dude, he saw 8 pitches in like almost every at-bat. Like that's what we need from him. I
Game
haven't been
one,
seeing
he
that.
was there. The rest of the series, though, I
Yeah.
hear you for sure.
But it was every at-bat with him, which is what
Yeah.
made him work. And anyway,
Hmm.
Lou, you have to have a big guy. There's no way you don't have a big guy.
I have to have a big guy, and I do. And I really never thought that I would be saying this. My big guy is Clay Holmes. And I think it is so, so well deserved.
Yeah.
He was nails in the ALDS. I think delightfully so. What I loved was that this fan base was so ready to love Clay Holmes again in a non-closer role. Big, big in a non-closer role. They don't want to see him back in the closer role, and I think that's fine. But we've seen ever since we were fans and since we matured, probably since our high school days, the Yankees have dominant bullpens. Like you go back to Dellin Betances and Zach Britton and Chad Green.
2017
Dude,
was unreal.
er-
I mean,
Early Loizaga was filthy.
Chad
even
Green,
like
Chad Green.
even the
so
Andrew
good.
Miller days, man. Like the Yankees have always had deep bullpens, and that's been a staple of their postseasons is having deep bullpens, having a lot of guys that you're confident turning to. Going into the season, and we've covered this extensively, was not super confident in the Yankee bullpen. That confidence continued to fall when Jonathan Loizaga got out for the entire season with an arm injury. And that confidence sank even lower when Clay Holmes had about the worst second half you can have as a closer for one of the best teams in baseball. Luke Weaver's been a godsend, and we'll get into Luke Weaver and how awesome he's been, but it is a massive, massive X factor for the Yankees to have another top tier bullpen guy they can go to. And listen, Tommy Kahnle's been awesome. Like the Yankees are starting to work into having a really nice upper echelon bullpen, but Clay Holmes to go 5 innings scoreless in the postseason. And if you want to go back, this is dating back to September 8th in the regular season. Last 14 games, 13 innings. He's only allowed 2 runs, 2 earned runs. He's been nails. And he's gotten the strikeouts have actually gone up. 11 strikeouts in 13 innings for a guy that our big gripe was he can't get strikeouts. Now, 9 hits in that span, you don't love that. And again, he's always, I think, going to be a guy that he'll be he'll fall victim to balls that find holes, or he's gonna pitch to contact, and balls are gonna get through, and that's gonna make it dangerous. But for Clay Holmes to be a nail setup guy, that is absolutely something the Yankees could use. And if he feeds off of his ALDS, we're gonna start to get really confident in this Yankees bullpen.
Yeah, I still get a little weary when he puts guys on base, but I think that's just me reacting to the full year of Clay Holmes. He was excellent in the division
Yeah.
series. He really
He had the
was.
most scoreless innings of anyone on the staff in the ALDS.
There you go. So that's all you got to do. Just keep him in that sixth inning, seventh inning. I really like Holmes, Canely, Weaver. Canely has had, I don't think it gets talked about enough. He had a sub two ERA in the regular season this year. He
Yeah,
was
he was great.
amazing. Holmes, Canely, Weaver, that should be what they're going to use for however long they're still in this thing for. That should just how it goes down. I know you played a matchups. Maybe Holmes isn't going in a certain scenario. Maybe Tim Hill is in there, depending on what the splits are, or if it's lefty lefty, righty lefty, whatever it is. But the Yankees have, and I know it's been a concern, but they've shown that, hey, some of these guys are rising to the occasion. They have a little bit more depth than we think they might have. They're not like these spectacular names, but they're getting the job done. And Holmes, Canely, Weaver, it's a solid 1, 2, 3 to have.
I'll say this: we talked about Boone's bullpen usage. The bullpen was excellent in the ALDS, as we've kind of hit on. 15 plus innings, only one run allowed, and that was off of Tim Hill. 12 of those 15 innings, more or less, there might be an extra out in there or whatever, but essentially 12 of those 15 innings were some combination of Weaver, Holmes, and Canley. All scoreless, none of them allowed a run. So they were excellent. All right, you guys tell me. We can either go straight to come on, man, or we can talk about a couple of guys that had big games, big series of games in the division series, or we can just table that and see who our come on mans are and then talk about the rest.
Let's do our come on mans. Let's
Okay,
because we might end up talking about a guy who, you know,
yeah.
Totally.
Well, this is a segment that I think we did at the trade deadline or right around the All-Star break, kind of as you say to a guy, come on, man, need you to step up, need you to be big here. A little come on, man, here for the ALCS.
you know who was helped greatly by our come on man? Glaber Torres.
I
Glaber
mean, was
Torres,
he my come on, man?
he was your come on man.
He
I
was
love it.
monster
And
second
he
half.
he
He was a great
heard you
second.
loud and clear.
He was
And
awesome.
he just went on a tear, dude. How about we don't talk about Glaber Torres. Glaber
We don't.
Torres has been awesome since the since
I would really love to talk about him. And if you want to do come on, man, and then if he hasn't been taken or he hasn't been talked about, I have a lot to say about Gleyber Torres.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so
I mean,
proud.
Let's talk about
yeah.
Glaber.
I think I spoiled it, but he's gonna be my come on man.
Okay,
Uh,
so I mean, how about let's set up the segment. Nick, who's your come on, man?
my come on man's Glaber Torres.
I love
And
it.
note the intonation. Note the intonation.
The way I noted the intonation back in July.
It's a little different. It's a
Oh,
little different.
interesting.
Glaber, come on, man.
Yeah.
And a little bit of grit there, but also a little bit of sweetness there. And there's a little bit of sweetness in my tone because this is probably going to be the last time we see Glaber Torres put on the pinstripes. And this is a dude who everyone has been calling to be traded at the deadline for every year since the second or third year of his Yankee tenure. Everyone's like, "Oh, trade Torres at the deadline, trade Torres at the deadline." And he stuck through it, dude. And he's finally, you know, he and Judge have like this special relationship that I think that people don't honor enough. And man, he's a Yankee, dude. Like, and no matter where he goes after this, when you think of Gleyber Torres, he will always be a Yankee. He played long enough. He's an all-time Yankee. And how sweet would it be for him to just keep going on a tear? Come on, Gleyber Torres, get yourself a World Series ring in your last year as a New York Yankee. Come on, man.
That'd be sweet.
I love it.
That would
I
be really
think
sweet.
I think he's completely changed the complexion of this lineup. It is not that long ago that Yankee fans all over the world were complaining about we don't have a leadoff hitter. We're searching for a leadoff hitter. Volpe didn't work. Verdugo didn't work. And the Gleyber Torres, who had just about the worst first half of a season that he could have, especially going into a major contact contract year. And some of the defensive woes that he was having, I think a lot of Yankee fans gave up on him and just said, this is just the Glaber story. I don't want to deal with it. He's made me so proud as someone that's always been a Glaber fan, and I still get bright-eyed about 2019 when he hit 13 homers against the Orioles and 38 on the season. Juice ball or not, Glaber was awesome his first 2 years coming up. 2018, 2019, that was everything I wanted about this top prospect that we had hyped up so much. And he had, I still think he's one of the best offensive second basemen in baseball. And that 2-run home run in game one, Will and I were sitting right next to each other for it, that gave the Yankees a lead. It didn't end up being, the winning run or the winning hit because that was a crazy back and forth game. But that set the tone, I thought, for the game about, hey, the Yankees are not going to go quietly in this game. They're going to have an answer.
Yeah.
No, he's been phenomenal. He's been everything that you could ask for, especially out of a leadoff hitter. And I'm just so happy that I feel like, made this leap back to what he was in years past. Because there was a while there where I didn't know if he was going to be able to do it.
He was my big guy for the division series, and Giancarlo was the big guy for the series, but
Oh yeah.
Glaber, he's just gonna he needs to have a run. He needs to have a run. Like we're saying, this is probably it for GT, and it
It's,
sucks. It's sad, but because like you said, Nick, he's a Yankee. He's a Yankee through and through. I know he signed with the Cubs and he came over in the Chapman trade, but
he's a Yankee.
he was like 16, 17, and he's a Yankee. He is a Yankee through and through, and it will suck to see him go because that's really what I think is going to happen. But go out with a bang, and he's doing a great job at it. That, like you said, Lou, that home run was really special. It put them on the top on the board, put them on top for the first time in the postseason two of this year. It was great. And I definitely don't think he's just a product of that juiced ball year. A lot of people had a lot of juice there. He had 38 in 2019, but 24 in his rookie year, 24 in 2022, 25 last year. Last year, if the Yankees weren't as much of a dumpster fire as they were, we could see a lot better of numbers across the board for Gleyber Torres. He had 68 RBIs, he batted 273 with a 347 OBP and an 800 OPS. So Gleyber Torres has been a very solid Yankee. I know he had those little middling years, 2020, 2021, forgettable, but it's been fun. I'll hate to see him go, but I just want to keep seeing him have a great stretch in the postseason. For
You
my
know what I
command,
need from him?
I was like,
I, from Torres, I need a couple line drive porch jobs. That's
sure.
what when he's hitting them out there, that's when you know he's seeing the ball right, when he's going oppo. That's what who's your command man, Will?
I was gonna
My
for
command,
this for Glaber. Just one last note in the
sure.
ALDS, 400 on base percentage, 867 OPS. You take that in every series. He only hit
Oh,
200,
totally.
but don't get leadoff hitter. Get on base to 400 rate for Soto and Judge. Have a little pop in there. Love it. Will, who's your command man?
My command man. My command man is going to be Jazz. My command man is going to be Jazz Chisholm. Now, defensively, made some very solid plays in the field. Showing off that arm, still not a third baseman, playing very solidly at the hot corner. If you can get Jazz going in the six hole, kind of like how you can get Wells going in the four hole, it's going to be tough for Cleveland. It's going to be tough for Cleveland. If you can just get some hits to fall for Jazz, get him on base. Let me just look at his numbers. Yeah, he got on base 19% of the time in the division series. If Jazz is on 35% of the time, that's a lot of noise on the base paths. We know what he can do. He's still 40 bases this year. We know what he can do on the base paths. We know the kind of noise that he can make. Just think about it. Outside of game one, he really didn't do anything. Now, it's up for debate of what that call was in game one. Was he on the base? Was he not? I don't know. They whatever it was, he was safe. He was safe and he was on the base. He gets on base, he steals second, and he immediately scores. He
No, Jazz was
immediately
out, dude. Jazz was out.
The umpires
well,
called him safe.
they called him safe. That at the end of the day, they called him safe. So he steals second and he immediately scores on light contact with the outfield not playing super deep. He is so valuable on the base paths. I would say even more so with his bat. If you can get him on the base paths, I think this lineup moves a little bit differently. There's a little bit more that goes with this lineup if Jazz Chisholm is on first base because you don't know what is going to happen. So I have a more of an optimistic come on, man, from Jazz Chisholm because I think he's got it.
Can we
And if
get
he
that
just
again?
gets
Can
on
we get
base
that
a little
again?
bit,
Can we get that come on man again? I need to hear the
you need to hear it. Come on, man.
Okay. Okay.
We like that? Okay.
Okay.
That was good. I'll take
That
it.
was good. I'm a little confused on the can you give an explanation like why is that the come on man?
Why, like,
Well,
my
you sound a
tone?
little too happy for what Jazz just put together in the last series.
Oh, because
Because
he's
he has faith,
still,
Nick. He's a
I have
good ball
faith. Kind of
player.
like how I had faith in Alex Verdugo. I have
Okay.
faith. I have faith in Marcus Stroman and I have faith in Jazz Chisholm. And if Jazz Chisholm gets on base, all he's saying, I'm moneyballing big time here, but if he gets on base, this Yankees lineup moves a little bit differently. They just do. And if that can happen, he had a 188 on base percentage. Just give me
Yeah.
300, and it's a different series for the Yankees.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on,
All right. My come on, man. Luis Seal. Come on, man.
man. Love.
Ooh.
Come on.
Yeah.
Wait. Again?
Luis Seal. Come on, man. The
Ooh.
guy that did not start a game in the ALDS when maybe as far back, maybe as recently as early September, I feel like Will and I were talking like, yo, he was your number two in the postseason, right? He was always for me a lock ever since like the midway point. Like he's been
Yeah.
nails. He's right up there in the rookie of the year considerations. I think, consistently over the course of the season was the Yankees' number two starter. You can make the case. You really could make the case number one.
When Cole was out, he was.
He was
He
awesome.
totally was.
He was
100%.
electric. Listen, the control issues are definitely concerning for the postseason, but there's no denying the stuff. And so I think Luis Heel, there should be a little bit of like, I didn't get a chance to start a game in the ALDS. They picked Clark Schmidt over me. And listen, Clark Schmidt is a great option. I think we've said the Yankees have a deep rotation, but Luis Heel is nasty. If we're talking stuff, he might be the nastiest guy in that rotation. And this can be a guy that can come out there in game three when he's scheduled to start and just have an absolute game. And if he has a game, who knows, man? Maybe he earns himself, if the Yankees make it this far, maybe he earns himself a start in the World Series. And I would not hate that. But Luis Heel, like there's no negative for me to work off of. He didn't pitch in the ALDS, but I want him to show us something because I think he's got all the talent in the world. And I think this is a kid that's going to be amped up to pitch in the postseason. He'll be on the road, which I think stinks a little bit. I would love to see him pitch in Yankee Stadium, but who cares? Road game, like crazy environment in Cleveland. Show me something, Luis Hill. Come on, man. Get fired up.
Yeah,
I
love
like
that.
it.
That's a motivational come on man right
I
there.
like
That's
it.
like let's get going. Can I give a quick honorable honorable mention come on man to
Give us an HM. Let's do it.
Alex Verdugo. He needs it.
Sure.
There needs to be a reason why we're starting this guy over Martian, and so far I haven't seen it. Like
He
there
won
just
them game one.
Dude, game one, he was great. And the
dude,
He won
defense.
them
I
game
need
one.
better than 1 in 11. I like
Fair.
I need more than that. Like
Um,
he's
Look at his defense in left field too. I that alone, I am taking over Dominguez right now. He was so solid out there. The bat's got to turn it around for sure. But the plays that he was able to make seamlessly, I don't even want to give Dominguez a chance at some of those plays. Just let it rock. Let it rock.
There are a few guys. Oh, you got something else, Nick?
just people. I feel like people saw those 2 weeks from Jason Dominguez where he missed two really easy fly balls and then immediately just wrote him off as a terrible defensive outfielder.
But
Like,
it's not that, Nick. It's first of all, you'd be playing him in left field, which is not his primary position.
yeah,
We saw that with Glaber, and like sometimes that does affect people, man. Like Glaber moving from second to short. I didn't think it would have been as big of a deal as it ended up being, but Glaber can't play shortstop. Maybe it's a case
Those
where
are two very different
I
positions.
understand. Listen, I don't think Jason's ever going to get to a point where he can't play left field, but I don't know how many fly balls he's taken at a minor league level at left field. He's been a center fielder for ever since he's been in our system. And again, I don't even think he's a bad defensive outfielder. But
Definitely not.
Verdugo is phenomenal, at least right now. That play that Verdugo made in game one, running down the line to make that
Yeah.
sliding catch, like Boone said it, that's one of the toughest plays a left fielder has to make, and he made it in a big game. So I just again, it's I'm not even at a point where it's like I don't ever want to see Jason Dominguez. I actually think taking Duke Ellis and Ben Rice off the roster gives Jason a big chance here to maybe get pinch running opportunities, maybe even
Yeah.
pinch hit. Like maybe he pinch hits for Rizzo in a spot that we're talking about. They get into the bullpen. I'd like to see Jason do something this postseason, but it's so tough to take the sure-handed Verdugo, his defense in left field. It's so tough to take that out of the equation.
But Dominguez walks so much more than Verdugo does. And at the bottom of the Yankee lineup, that is so, so valuable.
And you know what?
Take
I
that
think
off the bench then.
we'll get, but
Take
you
it
know
off
what?
the bench.
We might get to a spot where if the Yankees offense is struggling, that they make that switch to try and spark something. If we
Yeah.
They
get through
could.
2, 3 games and the offense isn't putting up the runs that they need to put up, especially against the rotation, we talked about this Cleveland bullpen a little bit. Like, yeah, if the offense is struggling, maybe that is a hey, for to go take a seat, we're gonna give Jason the start today.
Yeah.
That's also he'll be a little cold, hasn't seen live reps in a minute. In terms of
He's
like
what, 20, 24? He's
right.
fine.
But I
Who?
think it's a
Dominguez? Oh, well,
fair
Like
enough.
he's fine.
Yeah.
No, he's 21, right? 21?
that's what
Dominguez?
it says.
I think it's a little intimidating to get a
I
start
think
of
he's
the
21.
postseason after not playing. I think he'll be okay, but
Yeah.
I
um,
think with Dominguez that kind of like what I was saying with Rizzo. Unless you absolutely need it, don't even say, "Oh yeah, we'll try to start him out there." No, just go with Verdugo. Just go with Verdugo. I know the stick wasn't really there. He got on base 3 times in game one. His defense was
Yeah.
solid all 4 games. Just let him ride it out. Dominguez has a spot on this roster. That's why he's there. He definitely brings value. I'm not too worried about his defense, overall in the future. Not really looking at that though. He's
Okay.
going to be the center fielder of the New York Yankees in the future. Absolutely. But in terms of right now, Alex Verdugo is still that option in left field. Maybe he comes around and hits. Maybe he doesn't. But I know that defense is going to play an important role into whatever they do in this series. I think this is the biggest thing, my biggest take for this series for the Yankees. You just won a series, at least in game one. Stick with what worked. Just stick with what worked. And then after today, you go into tomorrow and you say, okay, we're all going to see it. We're going to see how this game unfolds. Then we see how game two should go. We know who's going to start, but we should see how the lineup goes. So right now, roll with what worked. Let it rock because it worked. It won you 3 games. You need to win 4 in this one, but let it rock. Let it rock. It worked before.
quick, I think 3 guys we need to mention, or we're not doing our jobs well. We talked about Stanton a little bit, but for me, 3 standouts from this ALDS series against the Royals. Stanton the entire time, especially with Judge not hitting, the fact that Stanton reverted back to postseason. Stanton, it's awesome. I think he's carved out a really special place in Yankees legacy, like Yankees lore, for being this year in and year out amazing postseason contributor. Luke Weaver absolutely nails in the closer spot, and he's been electric. And Garrett Cole, that
Yeah.
last that his second outing of the ALDS, shoving 7 innings, like that's exactly what you need out of your ace. Those are
Had
three
some
guys that
IPAs with the
wanted to me.
boys.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some IPAs with the boys.
He got lit, and he deserved to.
And he's building this track record throughout this contract of being that kind of pitcher for the Yankees in the postseason. Obviously, he won the Cy Young and he's been the ace and he's been a top 10 Cy Young candidate for his entire time with the Yankees. But with each series, it gets a little bit better. Now he's playing against Cleveland in 2022. If you remember what happened, he forced that game 5 for the Yankees in Cleveland. He shoved. They need him to shove tomorrow. They need him to shove if they get to a game 6 or 7 or a game 5. They need him to continue to shove. Garrett Cole needs a World Series big time. He needs that stage, and he can help the Yankees get there. He will get the Yankees there if he continues to pitch like he has been.
Yeah. Thoughts on Cleveland? I think looking at the potential matchups for the ALCS, my kind of feeling was Cleveland's the better team on paper by far. Certainly deeper than the Detroit Tigers, and I don't think that's an insult to the Tigers. Detroit had the best starting pitcher of the two. You really wanted to avoid Tarek Skubal. That's a guy that could win you 2, 3 games if he gets to start those games. You dodge Skubal. Now you have to deal with, as Will said, a Cleveland bullpen led by Emmanuel Clase, best reliever in baseball. Now he struggled a bit in the ALDS. Let up the 3-run home run to Carpenter, right? Carpenter in game two.
Mm.
Let up the
Yeah.
3-run home run. Let up another run in, I want to say, game three. He shuts the door in game five with a 2 inning save. So, like, again, it's Emmanuel Clase. You expect him to be nails. And it's just a deep bullpen. I don't think the rotation scares you. Obviously, Shane Bieber's hurt, but Bibby was pretty solid in his 2 games. Matthew Boyd wasn't bad as well. So they have arms. I think Cleveland ends up being it's still a tough matchup for them. It's a matchup they can win. Again, I think the Yankees should feel confident going up against any team, but this is a team on paper that they're better than, but this is still a team that can beat them. They play great defense and they have good pitching.
You know what's crazy is the Yankees would probably be playing the Tigers right now if they didn't trade Jack Flaherty at the deadline.
Yep.
If they didn't sell, the Tigers might be like we might be going into this ALCS being like, "Oh God, the Tigers, dude."
Yeah.
But we don't got to worry about that. We got to worry about the Guardians. And you're right, their bullpen is filthy. Karen Check is, I think, maybe one of the best middle relievers in ball. Yeah, Tanner Bibby, I think, doesn't get his flowers either for being a staple of a Cleveland rotation that lost Shane Bieber, and it was looking like it could be curtains. Offense wise, I also don't think that. Well, okay. Offense wise for Cleveland, they're very streaky, and that includes that's both of the nailers. That's Stephen Kwan at the end of the season. Um, their catching hitting has always sort of been a nightmare, but if they turn it on 1 through 9, this team can poke out some really annoying hits against you, and a J-Ram double at an inopportune time can really kill you.
I will
Yankees.
say just quickly on the pitching front, Karen Check not on the postseason roster.
Not on
Yeah,
the postseason roster. Is he hurt?
I
yeah,
don't
he's
know if he
been hurt
pitched
all
at all
year.
this
He's
year.
very good, but he's been hurt all year.
He
He's been
hasn't
hurt.
pitched at
I
all this
I
year.
I thought I saw something that he was coming back. I might be. Hold on.
Well, if he does, that's just another arm the Yankees have to worry about.
He's not on
And
the
He hasn't.
roster, so I think unless there's an injury, he can't come on.
Okay, all right, that's good
Um,
then.
but
well,
again, there's
Yeah,
names.
that's weird. They had him pitching in AAA in early September. I thought they would have him back by now, but
I mean, right? There's names that you recognize outside of Class A.
for sure.
Matthew Boyd, Bibby, Alex Cobb. We talked about a lot. Eli Morgan. There are names
Yeah,
that we recognize here on this staff. I think in the lineup now, J-Ram didn't have a crazy ALDS, hit 188, 788 OPS, but J-Ram is a Yankee killer. You worry about him.
big
Stephen Kwan.
Christmas.
Stephen Kwan was a beast. Hit 524 in 21 at bats,
mhm.
1.1 OPS. Lane Thomas had the big home run. Brian Rocchio was swinging the bat pretty well. I liked David Fry. Um, Josh Naylor is a person that Yankee fans hate. And so that's just going to be like he's going to get booed at the stadium. And there's probably going to be energy and juice. I think back to the DS 2 years ago, it ends with Glaber responding to Josh Naylor's celebration with the rocking the baby out on the final out. Again, and phenomenal defensively. Andres Jimenez, like great infield defense, really strong outfield defense. It's a well put together team.
John
Yeah.
Kenty Noel hits tanks too.
Mm.
He scares me. And also just the best nickname in baseball. Big Christmas. Are you kidding me? That's awesome.
Yeah, he had a good series against the Yankees too in August.
He is over so far in the playoffs though. So
He's good though. He can play ball. This is a scrappy team. This is like the Royals are scrappy. this is scrappy on steroids. They don't jump off the page, but they are a lot more scrappier than the Royals. They have the bats that they need in the middle in terms of Naylor and Ramirez, and it starts with Quan, who will be hectic on the base paths. He will find those gaps. Another guy who had a very solid series against the Yankees. They can get hits when they need it. Will Brennan can get you a hit. David Fry can get you a hit. All of these guys, 1 through 9, can get you a hit if you need it. That's what's gotten them so far this whole season. Just to kind of circle back on the bullpen, they have 4 guys who have at least a sub 2 ERA, and the outlier is Clase, who has a sub 1 ERA. He's going to finish top 5, maybe top 3 in Cy Young voting. Everyone knows about him. Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, all under 2 ERAs in 74, 78, and 75 games pitched this year.
Wow.
That is unreal. That is high usage, and they're still dealing. They're still dealing. Cade Smith had 103 strikeouts this year and pitched 1 more inning than Emmanuel Clase. He has 40 more strikeouts than him. This bullpen, this is what I was saying in the beginning. If the Yankees get 2 starters early and they being the Guardians are forced to use not these like high leverage guys earlier, the Yankees, that's the key. The Yankees just have to score early and often. They got to get to these starters. They got to, like today, they got to put up 3 against Alex Cobb in the first 2 innings. These bats got to be going. Gleyber Torres said it in this series. The first pitch, I heard Susan Waldman say it, the first pitch that he sees in a lot of these situations, he's probably going to swing because it's going to be the best pitch that you're going to see in the early parts of the game. The Yankees got to be attacking early and not get to these guys whatsoever. Class A is going to end up in these games one way or another. But if you can avoid getting to Smith, getting to Herron, getting to Gaddis, who will then lead you to Class A if you're down or if you're tied, it makes it tough. We were there. Actually, I don't remember if you were there. Were you there with me for the extra inning game? I think I was just there for that
No,
against
it wasn't.
Cleveland in August. But
I think I was.
that's the kind of baseball that they will play. They will wear down lineups and then explode when they need to. They will their lineup will stick with it, and their pitching will get them there. Like I said, scrappy on steroids. They have 2 guys, maybe 1 guy that really jumps off the page in Jose Ramirez, but everyone else fits the mold. They get it done. Once again, easiest path to the World Series, it's just got to stop. It's got to stop. It's
Yeah.
not that easy. The Royals are scrappy. Yankees barely scored against the Royals, and now they're playing an even scrappier and more well-constructed ball club in Cleveland. There's nothing easy about it.
Offense needs to kick into high gear, and this isn't a must, but boy, would it be nice if you could neutralize Jose Ramirez the way you neutralized Bobby Witt. Because Bobby Witt
Yeah.
didn't do anything in the ALDS against the Yankees. He was 2 for 17 against them, really, really quiet at the plate. I don't expect them to be able to neutralize Jose Ramirez. I don't think that's a key to success. But I think back to the ALDS. I think the main reason the Yankees won, outside of amazing bullpen and Giancarlo Stanton, was that Bobby Witt was basically a non-factor, and that kind of helped the Yankees squeak by with, I would call it, poor offense the entire series. The Yankees cannot afford to struggle offensively in this series because I don't think that you're going to completely shut down a Cleveland lineup that is better than Kansas City. And yes, Jose Ramirez is the star. There are sneaky good bats up and down this lineup that can get you. And they've gotten the Yankees before this season. So the Yankees offense needs to step into high gear. And I think there's even going to be higher attention paid towards the pitching and whether or not they can work through this lineup.
Yankees offense. Come on, man.
Yeah, yeah, that
Come
and
on,
that's what
man.
that and that's the biggest commandment of them all. Yankees
That's
offense.
the biggest
Come
come
on,
on,
man.
man.
Let's get it going. All right. I think let's wrap this up. Nick, Will, predictions for the series. Which team wins? How many games?
Yanks in 5.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say Yanks in 5.
I'm Yanks in 6.
I like
I
it.
think Cleveland. I think Cleveland can get a game or two. But again,
Yanks
I
win
do
it at
think
home though. That's cool.
I like it. That'd be pretty fun. Um, yeah, I think it's not even a knock on Cleveland. It's paying respect to Houston. This is the easiest ALCS opponent the Yankees have had since, I mean, definitely not the Detroit teams in the early 2010s. Like they were loaded. Even Texas in 2011 was pretty loaded. Are we going?
Bill doesn't like that word, Lou.
I
Bill
just
doesn't
don't.
like
I
that
don't
word.
because I know the track record with this Yankees team.
No,
They will find a way to not make it easy.
I'm not saying that it's an easy path. I'm just saying think about the juggernauts the Yankees have gone up against.
Sure.
Houston was
The
a
2019
dynasty.
Astros won 107
Right.
games. The 2022 Astros won 106 games.
The Tigers,
Fair.
when the Yankees played them, I'm pretty sure that was the Miggy Triple Crown year. Like that Detroit
Yeah,
team was
2012.
2011, that Texas Rangers team was stacked. Like those Texas lineups were stacked and they had great pitching. So I'm just like comparatively, the Yankees have always drawn tough ALCS matchups. This is a tough one, but this is not a I don't think this is a Cleveland dynasty. This is a matchup that the Yankees are favorites in, and it's probably the first time they can say that in a really long time going into an ALCS.
The 2017 Cleveland team was harder to face in a division
100%.
series than this team,
100%.
100%. Like totally up and down the line. Kluber, Bauer, Clevenger. That's just so much
Yeah.
that's a 1, 2, 3 that doesn't even come close to what kind of pitching the Yankees are going to face. Like that was unbelievable, and the Yankees ended up winning that series. So yes, it's not the names, it's not the star power that these other teams have had. Sure, I just I know with the Yankees, and I know in baseball, you just never want to underestimate your
100%.
opponent. On paper, it looks great. Signs are pointing to a pennant. That'd be awesome. I just want to ditch the paper and I just want to see them do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Easy, hard, whatever it is, just do it.
Just
Get
get
it done.
there. The Yankees have a chance to get to the World Series for the first time since 2009. As Will said, it's not going to be easy. Cleveland's going to put up one heck of a fight. Um, I think we all gave our predictions. We're all there. We're all squared away. We did our come on mans. We did our big guys. We did the postseason roster. I think we've hit on every. Is there anything that someone wants to get off their chest before we close this?
MVP. MVP of the series. What do we got? Who do we got?
Ooh.
Who is the MVP of the American League Championship Series if the Yankees go on and win? Now, the easy play would be picking your big guy.
That
But who
kind
do
of.
we think? Who do we think?
Mhm. Uh, if this series goes to 6 games as I'm predicting it, that means that it's likely 2 Garrett Cole starts. I have to think he's going to be pretty good in both of those. I think that's a safe bet.
I like it.
You know what? The series MVP
Hmm.
is the generational Juan Soto.
I love it.
We
Did we
haven't
just
talked.
go a full episode without
We
talking
didn't
about
talk
Juan
about Juan Soto
Soto?
because you know what? He was
It wasn't
fine. He
really
wasn't noticeable.
he was he
Great.
was fine.
He was good. He was
He was
good.
good. He was
Yeah,
good.
he was.
He
There was
went
no
like
need.
4 for 11. Like,
Yeah, hit 3 hits in that first game. There
like
really,
what are we talking
honestly,
about?
there was no need to bring him up. He did what what
Yeah.
he's here to do.
I want him
He
so
did what
bad.
he's supposed
He
to
could,
do. That's why
he
they
could
got
have a
him.
really big. Honestly, that's a major. Like we just didn't talk about him at all. It's a huge. Like he could have a huge series.
He
He could
could.
be. He could be a big guy. He totally.
He is a big guy.
He's a big guy.
He's
I
Juan
like
Soto.
that. What about,
What about?
dude? What about Giancarlo? How, from a
Again.
legacy
Why not?
standpoint, if he has another great series, think about this. If he has another great series, he's already like fringe Hall of Fame, right? With these numbers, he needs to play a few more years, get to 500 home runs. If he adds another great postseason where the Yankees give him a little bit more games and he adds an MVP of some sort of series to
Mhm.
his resume on top of those postseason stats, I can see it happening. I could really see him continuing to play really good baseball, especially if the guys that we were mentioning as our big guys, as our come on mans, do well and add a little bit more to where he doesn't have to carry the whole load. But if they're on base for him to continue to hit, we're talking like 6, 7 run games instead of 3 and 4 run games. I would love it for Giancarlo personally, but I can also see it happening if he continues to stay hot. I'll go Giancarlo. Sure, why not?
This is not my answer, but there's always Bodge. Judge could
There's
always
always Baj. That would help him too if he
be
gets a
nice. That would
championship
be
series
that
MVP.
would change a lot of narratives. About
Would.
Bobby Chaffordini was saying to Jack Warner the other day that if Judge goes through this entire postseason and doesn't hit, that it's going to officially become a thing that he has to work out of. Like Bobby thinks that there's still Yankee fans that are giving Judge the benefit of the doubt. I'm one of them. I do think it becomes like an A-Rod thing, and that's territory I just don't want to get into with Aaron Judge. So
It
it'd
is. It would be an
be nice if we
A-Rod
get that
thing.
going.
Just pose a regular season dominance. It
Yeah.
would be an A-Rod
I
thing
mean,
for sure.
it would certainly be something if Aaron Judge, two of the best seasons we've ever been alive for, and a lot of baseball fans have ever been alive for, and he doesn't do anything in the postseason. That's definitely tough. It's a tough one to get past.
Hmm.
But I still think he's the best hitter on the planet, and I have all the faith in Baj.
He's batting third every game too.
He's not in an eighth, I'll tell you that much.
No,
Not sending him down to
not
the eight
happening.
hole,
Not
despite what
happening.
people have said. No one on here, of course, because we know ball. Anyways, for Nick Palmer, for Will Tallant, I'm Lou Orlando. We are your three New York Yankees beat reporters. We'll have coverage of tonight's game, Monday, October 14th, tomorrow's game, Tuesday, October 15th, and any other potential home games down the stretch. We'll be there. We'll have you covered. Yankees, Guardians, ALCS. Let's go out there and do it.
Go
Capenna.
Yanks.
Go Yanks.